Welcome to 214 Square German parliamentary elections. It's January 12, 2025, and we are 42 days away from election day in February 23rd, 2025. And here are the newest polls. Here we can see CDU CSU isn't moving a lot, all around 30%. AFD is always cycling around 20%. Then also you can see SPD and the Green Party shortly changed the position that the Green Party has been ahead of the SPD, but only for a short time. SPD is now again ahead. Then we can see other parties, changes based on the mood and the voting population. The BSW, Bündnis Sarah Wagenknecht, is now again in parliament, and the left and the FDP, as well as the Free Voters, are not in parliament. Here's the most aggregated poll that we have, and the change in comparison to the last time. CDU CSU, the union, lost a bit more than a percentage point. Then we can see same happened to the SPD, not exactly 1%, but they lost. FDP unchanged. Greens won more than 1%. The Linke, the left party, won a bit, 0.4%. Then AFD won more than 1%. Free Voters lost. Same to Bündnis Sarah Wagenknecht, BSW. Other parties gained a little bit, but altogether they are not in parliament. Here's the current seat allocation. You can see the largest fraction in the parliament in the German Bundestag would be the CDU CSU, followed by the AFD, then SPD, then the Greens, then Bündnis Sarah Wagenknecht. And here you can see, it would be enough for a coalition between the SPD and the CDU CSU. So we would have a great coalition again. Or you can also consider to have a coalition with the Greens. Still, no party is willing to have a coalition with the AFD. And the big elephant in the room would be the BSW. Then let's see, what do trends show? What we have already seen is the union parties are losing. They are going down. They have been close to 35%. Now they're really touching 30%. The AFD is winning. The SPD is moving slightly. It's not much, but slightly. And the Greens, they are improving, but not in the same speed as the AFD, and they're not winning in the same speed as the CDU CSU is losing. Then BSW slightly losing, and we can also see FDP, not really moving, and the Linke is, making tiny steps, but not really improving. So today we want to talk about foreign nationals and people with migration background in Germany. So let's start here. We have 15% foreign nationals without a German passport in Germany. They are not eligible to vote. Where are they? So we can see, first of all, here that you find many in the west, in the south, but really few in the former German Democratic Republic in the east. So we can see here with Thuringia, with Saxony, Lower Saxony, Brandenburg, and Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, it's around 8 and 7%. It's really mostly, in most cases, half of what you find in the larger states of Germany. For example, North Rhine-Westphalia, 16%, Bavaria 16%, Baden-Württemberg 19%. So there's a big difference what you can find here. In Berlin and in Bremen, you have more than 20% of the population. Same in Hamburg, 20%. Saarland, it's not listed here on the map because it's a really tiny state in Germany. They have 15% foreigners. And now we want to see here this comparison that there is a big age difference between those who are foreigners and those who are German nationals. that the German nationals are by far older than foreign nationals. We can see here, for example, the foreign female is 37.36 years old in comparison to a German female 47.44 years old. Same with the males. Foreign male 33.81 in comparison to the German male 42.26. So many young migrants are coming to Germany. And of course, we also know that women are usually getting older than men. So this is probably one of the reasons, but this is what I don't have data for. So it's just an assumption. Don't take it for granted. Then let's see foreigners without migration experience. To explain this, foreigners without migration experience are foreigners who didn't migrate themselves to a country. So we are talking about newborn people who are in Germany. And we have at least the same pattern that in East Germany you don't find them very often, but in the West and the South you find it more common. It's more common, and also, of course, in the larger cities, and these are city states. So Berlin, Bremen, and Hamburg are independent states in Germany. So they are not belonging to, for example, Brandenburg or Lower Saxony. They are independent. And then we can also see the development of foreign nationals in the age groups. This is we can also see where do most younger people, for example, belong to foreign nationals or are foreign nationals. And again, here, the biggest cities, Berlin, Bremen, and Hamburg, have a higher population of foreign nationals, but even though they are 30%, you can also find the same, for example, in Hesse or even in Bavaria. Then the numbers are high. Here we can see a little exception from the rule that Thuringia and Saxony-Anhalt have a higher population in young foreign nationals or foreigners in the state. If you remember, 9% of the population in these states, in the foreign GDR, are foreigners. But here we have twice the number. Then we can see the second age group, 25 to 35. Also, it's a larger group of people who are living there. So 20%, 21, 23. Only Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, Northeast, has something below 18%. The highest number, again, you find, for example, in Berlin, 41%. So you can say that almost half of this age group in Berlin doesn't come from Germany. And even Bavaria, Baden-Württemberg, Hesse, Rhineland-Palatinate, or North Rhine-Westphalia have a high number of foreign nationals in this age group. Let's see now the age group 35 to 44 and then 45 to 49. Here we can see the bigger difference because you can see former GDR is now dropping in the numbers of foreign nationals in these age groups. But it's a big difference to, it's different to what you see, for example, now in Baden-Württemberg and Hesse. Berlin, of course, Berlin is always next Jameson. Bavaria, Rhineland-Palatinate, North Rhine-Westphalia, Lower Saxony. There the numbers are really different. They are going up. And well, why is this a case? One possible explanation is that in the booming years, in the 16 and 70s, Germany has many guest workers or laborers from, for example, Yugoslavia, Italy, Portugal, Spain, later from Turkey, and they are most likely still living here. And so they are counting. But it was different in the GDR, which belonged to the Warsaw Pact. And so this is a possible explanation. But I didn't do research on this, but it would make sense. Then let's go to the last two age groups. Here, the same pattern that you can see that there are very few to almost no foreign nationals in the older age groups from 60 to 69 and 70 and plus and above. Sorry, their numbers in the GDR are around 2% to 1%, and this is well very different to what you can see now in the west and in the south and in the north with 5% to 8%, 11%. So yeah, this is an extreme difference. What you can see here, I would probably have the same explanation, but again, I didn't do my research on this. Then let's move on. Let's see the age differences in states. And I think here my theory about guest workers and so on um, can be underlined here, because what we can see is that first of all, German nationals or Inländer, Deutsche, well, they are quite old. First of all, in the east, they are younger in the north and in the south. Um, even though there's not much of a difference. But then let's go to foreigners. And here you can see that you find the youngest foreigners in the east. So we have this extreme difference between a very old German population in the east and a very young foreign population in the east. And these are people who didn't come to Germany as guest workers, who have been invited to work in Germany because Germany didn't have the population to meet the needs. This is a possible explanation. In comparison, in the West, where you had a high density of industry, and in the South, where you had big companies like BMW, for example, or Mercedes and Porsche. Also, it's also industry dense. You can find that there the foreign population is older. Again, it's not a huge difference between the West and South, but a huge difference between the East and the other states, except from the North, um, that the gap is not that high. And this means that, yeah, if you see it here, the population overall is, I wouldn't say quite old, but it's an advanced aged from, well, probably what we can see here, the lowest number is 42.07 to something around 48.75. And this explains probably that why politicians argue that foreigners are important to keep the working population young. Again, I don't want to say what is right, what is wrong. I just explain the data. Then we see citizens with migration history in 2023. It's again 15%. It's not a typo, it's really 15%, same number. And we are talking here about German citizens with a German passport and a direct or indirect migration background. Um, Direct migration background are people who came themselves from one country to Germany, and indirect are those who have foreign parents, for example, or one foreign parent. This is the explanation. And here we can see a similar pattern. The East has lower numbers of German nationals with a migration background in comparison to the rest of the country. And yeah, in the West, it's getting darker, means there are more people with migration background. Again, big city states are having higher numbers of foreigners, but this is a pattern that you probably find everywhere in the world that if you have foreigners, they are going into the bigger cities. Then we see migration background with migration experience. Again, these are people who migrated themselves to Germany. And here you can see again very few people who are in the east of Germany, but you can see many in the east. Let's see, North Rhine-Westphalia, 8.8%, Hesse, 8.0%, Rhineland-Palatinate, 7.2%, Baden-Württemberg, 7.9%, Bavaria, 6.1%, 6.3% in Lower Saxony, Schleswig-Holstein, 5.3%. Of course, city-states high, Berlin, 6%, only, I would say in this case. But Bremen, for example, 10.8%, Hamburg, 9.8%, and Saarland, 6%. Then we have migration background without migration experience. These are the people who came later, like children of these people. And we are talking again about nationals. So these are German nationals now. They have a German citizenship. And here also there's a difference between what you see in the east and again in the west. Numbers are quite high in North Rhine-Westphalia and Hesse and in Baden-Württemberg. Then you can also see, if you look at the right, Berlin, Bremen, and Hamburg are also quite high, in line with what you can see in North Rhine-Westphalia and other western states of Germany. So, totally, Germany has 30% foreigners and citizens with migration history. In total, these are 24.9% million. Pardon. Sorry. And okay, migration background in population in total is, as you can see here, um, in the east around 10%, a bit more than 10%, but around 10%, over 30% or around 30% in the west, and in the south it's a bit lower in the north. This is normal. And again, city states like Berlin, around 40%, 44% in Bremen, 40% in Hamburg, the Saarland, 28.1%. Now we want to see, where did the people come from? The origin of migrated individuals in 2022. So there's a little difference, and numbers would probably shift a lot due to the war in Ukraine. So the most common origins in population with migration background. Here you can see many people are coming from Turkey, 11.9%. Poland, it's a neighbor state of Germany, 9.2%. Russia and Kazakhstan. Here I want to explain that Germany welcomed people from Russia or the former Soviet Union if they had, for example, German origins. There have been many so-called Volga Germans or uh, Russia Germans, Russlanddeutsche, who came to Russia and kept the culture. And Germany then said, after the fall of the Soviet Union, okay, you can come to Germany, you're welcome, settle down, you're back home. And this is one of the reasons why you find many people from Kazakhstan or from Russia and even Ukraine and other states of the former Soviet Union. Then Syria, we had a refugee crisis since 2015. Then Romania, then Italy. This is one of the countries famous for guest workers. Then Ukraine, the Kosovo, and Bosnia Herzegovina. They're the most common countries of origins in foreign populations, so those people who don't have a German passport. Let's start again. Turkey, 11.1%. Ukraine, 8.7%. Here we're talking about the war in Ukraine. Syria, same, 6.9%. Romania, 6.6%. Poland, 6.6%. Italy, again, guest workers, 4.8%. Croatia, 3.3%. Bulgaria, 3.2%. Afghanistan also can be many refugees, 2.8%. And Greece, 2.7%. So this is what we have on foreigners, and now why it matters. Well, for our prediction model, we first of all want to understand how many people in Germany are eligible to vote. And of course, is there some kind of a correlation between foreign migration and immigration as a top issue for the voters? This is what we want to understand. This is why we're doing this. Now, let's move on. Let's talk about the economy. Economic growth by states. At the moment, Germany is facing economic issues. The economy shrunk a little bit, and here we can see where growth was strong in 2023. 2023. We are now in 2025. I don't have actual numbers yet. But you can see, for example, that strong growth is something that you can see in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, 3.3%. But a big recession in Rhineland-Palatinate, that's almost minus 5%. Even North Rhine-Westphalia, an industrial powerhouse, minus 1%. And minus 0.6% in Baden-Württemberg. But we see growth, for example, in Lower Saxony, even though it's not big. Then in Hesse, you can see the same in Bavaria, in Brandenburg. But for example, the three East German states of Thuringia, Lower Saxony, not Lower Saxony, Saxony-Anhalt, and Saxony are in a recession. Then let's see GDP per capita. And here we're talking about numbers from 35,000 euros or 35,700 euros to almost 80,000. And here we can see also a difference, that the East has a lower GDP per capita, while in South Germany it's relatively high. In numbers, we can say that Thuringia, there is the GDP per capita of 35,715 euros. In comparison to Hamburg, a city-state in the north, there is 79,176 euros. It's a huge difference, and it's one of the reasons, probably, why East Germans say we need somebody who is representing our interests, and that we want to grow, we want to develop our economy, and this is why people are looking for somebody who's representing their interests. Then unemployment by state. And here you can see, first of all, that the city-states, except from Hamburg, have a relatively high unemployment rate. We are talking about Bremen with 10.7% of the population, in comparison to Bavaria in the south, 3.4%. Overall, you can see that, well, east and west are not really different. Same with the north. You find differences if you compare the rest of Germany to the south. And there you can see, again, it's around 4% in Baden-Württemberg and 3.4% in Bavaria. And in the rest of Germany, it's always at least over 5% or more. Then we can also see the change in unemployment by state. And here we can see probably the fallout of the recession that we have in Germany, or at least the slowdown of the growth, if it depends on what you call it. And here, the East is partly doing better than the rest of the country, specifically Mecklenburg-Vorpommern. Unemployment only rose by 1.4%, or in other words, it increased from 7.3% to 7.4%. The numbers, by the way, are from September 2023. And so we can always consider that there are seasonal effects, but construction workers, for example, should be included. But where we can see where the numbers rose strong is most of all Baden-Württemberg by 14.3%. It rose from 3.5 to 4.0%. Even in Bavaria, the numbers of unemployed people rose. Same in Hesse, Rhineland-Palatinate, Thuringia, and Saxony. But they did well in Brandenburg and even in Saxony-Anhalt. And surprisingly, even though the German industry has several issues to fight with, you can see that North Rhine-Westphalia, well, they are doing quite better than many other states, and even better than, for example, Lower Saxony, its neighbor state in the north. So this is what we had so far. I want to tell you that we are also trying to cover other elections. We want to cover globally important elections, not only in the US. And we will definitely look that we cover the Canadian federal elections, since we expect early elections in Canada after the resignation of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister and as leader of the Liberal Party. The election is officially set for October 2025, but it's likely that the election could come earlier. And then, if the French Parliament is still hung, the next possible early elections could happen this year, but not earlier than in July this year. This is what we will also cover because France and Canada are very important nations in the world, and we want to see and understand how they're working and how they're voting and how people are thinking. Then I just want to tell you about my data sources and tools. I didn't do this in the past, but I think it's important. So first of all, to get the polling data, I use wahlrecht.info. It's a German page. They are gathering the data. And then I also use for statistical data Destatis. It's a German government website, and also the German census. For voter demographics, I use ZDF Heute. It's the German broadcasting channel, the second official broadcasting channel, and they are working together with Forschungsgruppe Wahlen. They are providing the voter demographics that you have seen here, and I'm working with them. For data analysis, I use Microsoft Excel, but I plan to use Python and SQL more often. For presentation, I use Microsoft PowerPoint. I consider to use Canva. For video recording, I partly use DaVinci Resolve and ScreenRec. Right now, this video is being recorded with OBS. Again, we have limitations because the BSW is very young. There are different voting systems in Germany, and there are few well-organized data sets in Germany in comparison to other states. And there are fewer polls on state and federal level in comparison to the United States. So we will see how correct our prognosis will be. And this is me, a dropout from Georgia Institute of Technology. I have my EMBA from Quantic School of Business and Technology. And a Bachelor of Arts from Bielefeld University in Social Science, and several certificates from Corporate Finance Institute in Canada. Thank you for watching.